Welcome back to another episode of the Protect the Asset podcast. A lot of experienced personal trainers want to have more freedom in their life, but they're stuck trading time for money because they lack the business skills to succeed on their own. I get it. I've been working in the health and fitness industry since 2010. If you're like me and you believe that personal trainers deserve to have a sustainable career that gives them both freedom and financial security, then you're in the right place. In this podcast, I aim to interview experienced online coaches who are creating a business that supports their dream lifestyle. I will also interview business experts to gain insights into the business skills that personal trainers need to create a successful online business. I hope you enjoyed the show. It's time to protect your number one asset. My guest today is founder and co-owner of Charge CrossFit in Melbourne, Ashley Jones. Ash has owned Charge CrossFit for over a decade, and he's definitely learnt a lot in the process. 18 months into the business, the partnership broke down and Ash nearly went bankrupt. Ash was injured and burnt out at the time, and his work-life balance was skewed heavily towards work. But he made the call not to close the gym and to try to turn things around. Ash and I discuss business partnerships, the challenge of running a business, becoming a team leader, and investing in mentors and business coaches. Full credit to Ash and his wife Renee, who managed to turn their business around and build an incredible gym community in Melbourne. A few years back, Ash and Renee made the call to leave Melbourne and move to the beach town of Noosa. Together, they've set up a new life at a much slower vibration than the city life they've left behind. Ash still manages the business side of CrossFit Charge from Noosa, but he also runs personal training sessions from his home gym, and he teaches some classes at one of the local gyms. This lifestyle change has given Ash more freedom, energy, and time to do the things he loves, like go surfing. It's been challenging, and Ash has jumped off a lot of cliffs to get where he is today. I really enjoyed catching up with Ash and learning more about his story. Although we've known each other for a while, we've not had the chance to sit down and have a conversation like this. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. Let's get stuck in.
So what I'm up to now is I currently live in Noosa Heads in Queensland. I'm sort of split with what I do. So maybe half of my work or maybe even more is like admin of my CrossFit business that I still own a part of in Melbourne. So like I do a lot of the programming and just like a lot of the things behind the scenes, the admin stuff that you can do without being there in person as often. So I've got that part of me split down the middle, I guess. And then the other half is I'm running like a PT business up here in Noosa, because the main thing is I just love training people in person. And I also do a lot of Zoom PTs as well, but just training people and like trying to help them solve their issues or just get better at things. That's what really like gets me revved up. And I get to do that remotely for the gym, but I also need to have that fix of doing the in-person training.
Awesome, mate. I think it's one of the things we all enjoy, isn't it? Just being able to help the people that we serve and see the progress that they can make under our guidance. They're just trying to recall, I think we met like maybe 2016, I think it was. I came back from London to Australia just for a holiday, and I was spending time with one of my best friends in Melbourne. And funnily enough, she was training at your gym. And not only that, one of the coaches that used to work for me in London was working for you guys as well at CrossFit Charge there. And I just remember you being so welcoming. You know, the doors were open and you invited me into the gym to come and train. And we did some training together, which was epic. But one of the things I don't think I ever asked you was like, what were you doing before the gym?
Yeah, interesting question. But just before I answer that, it's actually funny. It was actually a while ago when we met, but I don't know if you agree, like the last couple of years with all the stuff happening, it sort of makes me feel like those 2 years don't count, you know, but they do count. They've definitely shaped me, and I'm sure you can say the same. But get into your question. So what I did before owning a gym and training people was essentially, I was a desk jockey, I guess you would say. I was learning how to shape my body into the shape of a chair.
Yep.
All day, you know, like a real slouchy chair. I was really like getting good at that position. And I basically, for about 10 years after school, I built myself up to being a manager in an office. And I was actually in a transcription office in the city in Melbourne. And what that meant was like we recorded what happened in courts. in court proceedings all around Melbourne. And then it had to get typed up and then put together, given to the barristers and the judges. I became like a manager in that business and just running an office and just, I was good at what I did, but I realized, like maybe 10 years in, what am I doing here? Like, I actually didn't know what else to do, but I was thinking, why am I doing this? And also, all I can see in the future is getting paid a bit more each year. Maybe if there was some other step to go up, they'd put me up on that next step. And then I'd be looking back at the next 10 years, it'd be 20 years in that position thinking like, why am I here? This isn't like really doing it for me. I realized that this wasn't good for my health. I was starting to put on a bit of weight, which was something I never actually ever did earlier because I was so active and just basically a skinny kid. But then I started eating really bad food, drinking maybe 8 coffees a day. I wouldn't be surprised if it was that, to be honest. I was flying high, just like working fast, drinking coffee all day, eating the worst food. Didn't even know anything about food. Didn't know anything about all that stuff. So as a kid, look, I didn't really put on much weight, but I also had like a mum that just looked after us so well with food. But I didn't even take note of what she was doing. It was just like, that's how we ate. But then when I went out on my own, I didn't know how to eat at all. And I was just eating whatever I decided I'd learn how to cook and then take away everything, So I just realized this wasn't doing me any good. And all I could see in the future was just more of that. So I quit. I just decided like, I can't just keep doing this, but I don't know what else I want to do, but I've got no time to work that out. So I quit the job and I found a job that just had no responsibilities and I could just do those hours and not even worry about it. I was in an office and I even had like at one stage, like a view of the ocean from the office. It was pretty fancy, wearing suits and stuff. Then I actually started putting up advertising in bus shelters after that. So putting up movie posters and whatever else posters and like had to clean the posters and clean the bus shelter. So I was driving around in this little van, just like cleaning things. I was like a cleaner advertiser person. And at that point in time, that's when I had some time for myself and I started going to the gym, like properly for the first time in my life. And then that's when I found the love of me getting fitter. And I always loved teaching people. And I started like helping out my friends and family. And I just realized that this is what really lights me up. But I took a big risk by like just getting rid of that full-time wage and what everyone thought was like a really good career path. But it just wasn't for me, and jump off the cliff, and I landed pretty.
An interesting story because both you and I were corporates. I was corporate for a number of years as well, and yeah, I came to probably a very similar realization that it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't doing what I wanted to do, and my health was a priority. So I didn't want to be stuck at a desk all day. So the gym sort of evolved out of that, or the fitness sort of evolved out of that. So when did you decide to open a gym, or how did the whole idea to open CrossFit Charge come up?
So the way I opened Charge CrossFit was I was a personal trainer for a few years. I was basically booked out as a personal trainer. And so that's on the one hand, but on the other hand, I was just always searching. I'm always searching for the best practices. Like, how can I learn? How can I teach someone something that will actually be more effective in that hour that I have for them? How can I help them with nutrition or just moving better? How do I learn better technique? And back then it was at I call it more like the start of like the boom of CrossFit. Like there were a few CrossFits around, but not many. And they were like sporadically placed. So like you'd have to travel generally to go work this out. And I started hearing about CrossFit, but everyone was bad mouthing it essentially because they said there's no technique and all that. But honestly, when I was looking around the gyms that I was going to, people weren't using good technique at all anyway. So like, I don't know what they were talking about. They didn't know how to do a squat themselves or a deadlift, but they're still trying. So I actually thought I'm going to go to this CrossFit course. And I found that they actually taught me technique better than anyone did prior to that. I had a lot of respect for that. And I started enjoying the workouts and just how it went. So like one side of me had like a full PT roster and the other, I'm learning about these new things. And then I realized that if I could open a gym, like I reckon there was a space for me to be able to open a gym in the area, I'd be able to keep training my people, but they'd be able to come see me more often. So hopefully they'd be even get healthier because they can come more often for like a similar price to a PT session. And I was just I just was in love with CrossFit and that methodology. And I just thought, this is what I need to do. So I just jumped off another cliff and decided to open a business, even though everyone's telling me it's going to be hard. It's going to be.
How many lives have you got, mate? There's a lot of cliff jumping going on here.
Well, jumping off cliffs, but I haven't like hit the rocks yet, right?
Yeah, you're doing well.
There's some good risks.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think, CrossFit did get a bad name for itself, and there was a lot of people sort of up in arms about it. But I had the same experience too. Like there are CrossFit gyms and there are CrossFit gyms, and there are PTs and there are PTs. There are people doing it right and there are people doing it wrong. And yeah, it's always going to be like that, isn't it? People have got their beliefs about what's better and what's not. But at the end of the day, it's about the members. And if that's what they want and they're getting a good support and good training and it's allowing them to train more, well, then, you can't really say it's a bad thing, can you? So
definitely not. Yeah. And I reckon you hit the nail on the head. Like every profession has got people that really know what they're doing and other people that are just coasting by, and it doesn't matter whether it's CrossFit or Pilates, Zumba, being a doctor, being a plumber, it's all the same thing, isn't it? Like there's people that have got it and there's people that just trying to do the least amount possible.
I'd like to go back to the early days of opening the gym, like when you decided to open, the gym and, start to build this amazing business that you have there. What was going on for you? How are you feeling? Can you speak to us about that time in your life?
It's a bit over 10 years now. And it's interesting. Like it's been a really dense 10 years. I've got memories strong memories in parts of it. And then others is just like, boom, it's going like a blur. But starting the business and anyone that wants to start a business, I just think you should just be ready for like a mega hustle. Like, I mean, what I did to start the business was work as many of the hours as I possibly could. Like, run myself into the ground almost, but I felt like really it was either that or get a loan or something like that. I didn't want to get loans to pay for things. I wanted to like just build it up and then I could have staff later. I feel like you even give more of yourself at the start because you got that energy at the start. You got the reserves because you're so excited about it. It's this new thing that you got to try and, make solid. And so there was that. And there's a lot of extra things that I didn't know about, which actually were a bit problematic at the start. About a year and a half in, like we're nearly closed. Like it came close. Like we're nearly bankrupt for a time there. So like my focus was on being the best coach I could. And I was doing a good job of it, I feel anyway. And I was building a community, being a better coach, learning more and more all the time, just trying to work on that. But like what I knew about business though, and was behind that. And that was a bit problematic because that's how you pay the bills and pay the tax and all that sort of stuff, the important stuff. I also, at the very start, I had a business partner and I learned a big lesson and I'm sure she did too. We've got different stories to tell on this, but essentially, if you're going to get into business with someone, you might as well treat it like a marriage, I think. And as in, it's best not to do that Las Vegas, I've met you for a month, a week, a night. Let's just get into this. It's better not to jump off a cliff and just dive into something you don't know about with a business partner because that can turn into bad things because maybe you don't know each other. And we didn't know each other. And that's where things were going wrong. We didn't communicate well. I thought the business was going really good, but then when I actually looked into the figures, it wasn't. But I had like a room full of people all the time, but then we weren't being able to pay things. And I'm like, there was just weird things happening. And so like that business partnership fell apart. Like we had a divorce, which I could have changed all that if I could go back in time, but that's part of it. I was really put under the pump then. We're a year and a half in, had this successful business in my mind, but like money wise, it wasn't. So we need to make changes. And then I went out on my own with that. Then it was like hustle number 2, but I also realized how you need to do it differently. So like, it was just a big lesson learned. And I just stepped up our game even more and made the business even better. But that's what I remember at the start. I don't know if I've answered your question.
There's definitely some similarities between you and I in that experience as well. Yeah, I went into business with 2 other business partners and one I saw eye to eye with and the other one we just butted heads. And in the long run, our values and beliefs didn't align. So it became hard to have that business together. And I think it's a very common story. So it's sound advice that you're offering there. If you're going to go into business with your partner, it's one of those things that you need to really know each other, and those values and belief systems have to align because at some point you are going to butt heads and it could cost you your business. I like the way you also talk about the extra responsibilities, because I think a lot of coaches have the idea of, okay, let's open a gym, that'll be awesome, and I just want to coach people, and this gives me the opportunity to train more people. How great is this going to be? But you go from, being a PT working in a gym to now you own a gym, and there's all these extra components: managing the accounts, the memberships, hiring staff, the programming, the cleaning, like all these extra layers that come on board with that. What were your favorite parts, and what were the parts that you just were like totally lost at, or feel like, oh, how do I even start with this stuff?
Well, definitely my favorite parts were training people in person and the programming. They're the things that really lit me up. But then, I mean, like you said about the cleaning too. Yeah, the cleaning's not my favorite part because it just, like, I don't care about doing cleaning. It's just more, it takes a lot of your time and you're already like really time poor doing other things. So as soon as I could afford to get a cleaner, that was like the best move ever, because pay someone else that will like maybe even do it better because they're like not rushing, hopefully, the whole time, and they've got the eye for it. And then it gives you that time to maybe make income even greater than what you're paying the cleaner at that time to up the business. So like, learning not to spread yourself too thin was important, because you can't do everything, but you sort of need to at the start. The business stuff is things that really sort of did my head in at the start. Like I said, I preferred the training and the programming. Then like, I don't know, talking about all the tax stuff, the accounting stuff, like that stuff I didn't really enjoy. But now, ironically though, I had to learn more about that. And that's more of the stuff that I do now. But I always knew I would want to learn more about it. But I like, eventually my wife was part of the business, Renee, at that time, and she did that side. I could really trust her because we were married. And then I did the other parts and we came together with this. But now I've sort of swapped over to more her role, but she's been able to mentor me and teach me that part of it, which has been really great, because I always knew it was a bit of a hole, but I didn't have the space to like deeply learn it. I could just skim over it.
Exactly. I like what you say there. And it's like the business skills. So a lot of coaches are lacking those business skills, and they think, oh, it'll just happen. Like, we can open a gym or we can open a business and it'll take care of itself. But it is something you have to be on top of. And it's a new set of skills we definitely have to learn. I know from speaking to you earlier that you've had mentors and you've had coaches along the way, both with training and business. Can you shine a light on that and tell us how you came up, hiring those coaches and what that did for you?
Yeah. So definitely the most important mentor I've ever had over this part of my life his name's Jules Burgermeister, and he's a trainer, but he's a lot of different things. It just depends on what you're needing to be, I guess. But at the point in time, like me and Renee, we were both injured. We were just giving our whole body to the gym. And then I don't know if other people can identify with this, but basically I would do workouts, but I would often not do the warm up. I'd often not do a good enough cool down, because I only had like this amount of time. So I'm like, just lift these weights, do this as fast as possible. And like, I wouldn't be using bad technique or anything like that, but I wasn't doing the smart things around it because I didn't have the time. And I just was like, just trying to like skim this in, but I was injured from that. And I just couldn't get out of that injury too. I went to see a lot of people and it didn't quite solve the issue. I had like a really, really sore knee. And what I learned about injuries, especially through my own exposure, was that your whole body starts becoming to the level of your injury after a while, because it's just weighs you down. And Renee had like a slap tear in her shoulder as well. She had an injury. We heard about this guy, Jules, that can help people with injuries. And I wasn't 100% into actually doing this session at that time. I didn't realize who, like, Renee is the person who found him. And I actually thought, is someone just going to get me to do some more fucking workouts that I already do? Like, what is this process even going to be? But it changed everything, because he just got us to do what we needed to do. And like, he helped us, number one, with injuries. He taught me how to train at a different level. And the things that I've learned have just been crazy, because I've kept on learning more and more. I can ask more things of him. And we've been training together for like, I'd say like 6 years. Every 2 weeks, have a PT training session with him for 6 years, and it's turned on to Zoom things now. I reckon personally, every trainer should have a trainer. You need someone that you can ask and you can grow with, you can be honest with, and that can also help you with the things that maybe you're not seeing from the outside about yourself, about how you're moving, about like many things. Like someone that can get really deep is, I think, even better. But the way you trained me taught me how to train people even better. That's really what I was really interested in, and I still am. I just want to learn as many things as I can so I can have more tools and just be able to implement that. So he's actually helped me physically, but also business wise too. Like he's ran businesses and his own business, and is really can see into that sort of stuff. But then more specifically, around about the same time, so it was a really big time of change for us and for me. We had a business coach as well, and his name was Drew Slater. And basically, he set up a community of other gyms, and all the owners. He somehow got them into his sales, and he taught us how to do sales a lot better in a better way, a non-sleazy way. I understand sales a lot more since learning from him, like how to be on the phone call with people and just how to maybe close the deal if you want to, or how to say no to someone joining your gym. And we also went into the back end of the gym, all the works that we could just make a bit slicker. Yeah, even like advice on how to put the rates up, because I was a bit of a pushover at the start. Like we had the same rates for like 5 years, and that's not a good idea, especially because money devalues and prices go up for everything else, and you're just like too afraid or too nice or too pleasing of everyone to charge the actual rate you need. And just learn how to be a bit more real about that, because it's just how it has to be. And yeah, so like we learned a lot of good things about that.
How far in the journey then were you? Like you'd been running the gym for how many years before you decided, okay, we need a business coach? And what do you think led to that decision?
I reckon it was about years in. I really got to the point where I felt like I've taken this as far as I can with my current knowledge, and it needs to grow more. Like we were at the second turning point of the gym. Like the first turning point was like 1.5 years in, where we nearly went bankrupt, and like, wow, there's some real stuff we got to do. The second time was more like, yeah, we've just got to up our game in every way now. So that's what spurred me. And I happened to see something on the web, and probably put my email address in something, and then he just happened to contact me, and it was just at the right time. I was actually open to this sort of thing instead of like angry that someone just contacted me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then through the sales process of him talking through this, mate, I was really inquisitive as to how he got me to sign up to that thing, because I was generally resistant.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, like if I could have gone back in time, I would do that from day one. I would have had that business coach, because there's just not enough time to just have to learn all the lessons yourself. I think it's pretty smart, and it can be a next level maturity to actually like learn from someone else. They've learned from their mistakes, but they want to help you not repeat those mistakes. And I think it's just super valuable just to move on with things faster in that way. And it's like, it looks like it's going to be a lot of money that you have to give them, but it's just an investment.
Yeah, and it probably comes back tenfold, doesn't it? Like when you put
it does.
Yeah, exactly.
It really does. And you learn those things, and you just become next level with what you used to do, and have a more professional business. It's just going to be a better thing.
You've already given us a couple of examples. You talked about, the sales call and deciding whether members are suitable for the gym and stuff like that. But could you give us maybe another insight? What was another really big, valuable point that you think you took away from having a business mentor?
I think that one thing he did was encourage me to be a better leader. Just like how to lead the ship a little bit better, because I think at that time I was going through a lot of growth, and I'd read some books, like I think it's Know Your Why, Simon Sinek.
Yep.
Then he had another one like Leaders Eat from Memory. That's what it's called. I was really getting into all these sort of things and podcasts about it. And yeah, the leadership role and realizing where I needed to be as a leader, and not just like I'm a nice boss. Like how to lead a crew of coaches, how do we help the PTs get more work, just how to be a mentor to them. I think that's one really valuable thing I learned as well, because that's a very big part of a successful business, I believe.
Yeah, huge, mate. Especially when, you've got a front-facing team. These are the people that are working with your members every day. And if you're not looking after them and supporting them, then how can you expect your business to grow? And another thing that's often overlooked, I go from being a personal trainer, looking after myself, and now all of a sudden I've got to manage a team. Like, how does that work? So yeah, I love that, mate. It's a really good, valuable lesson that you can learn. I want to sidestep just a little bit now.
Cool.
Going through your social media, there's a post that you put up last year,
Yeah.
and I just want to read the comment from it. So, 37-year-old Ash, injured, burnt out, work-life balance skewed towards work, no warm-ups, no cool-downs, inside all day. 41-year-old Ash, fit, healthy, listening to his body, investing in himself in order to help others. That's pretty powerful, mate. And obviously in that 4 years, there's a lot that happened. Can you talk to us a little bit about that post and talk to us a little bit about, that work-life balance and what was going on for you?
What changed was I realized if I invested in myself and my health and learning more things about this, but also just making me better, I was so much better as a coach and a business owner, as a mentor. Like, so I had to keep leveling me up, not just worry about everyone else. Like, it gave me more energy to give to them. It gave me more experiences to teach people with, like with the being outside portion of that. But I'm still just living inside. I'm just inside this gym, which is still full of shadows. Maybe it's got big roller doors up, but it's like I'm still living this inside existence. And I needed to just get a little bit more of that natural health into me. So I made sure that I spent some time every day outside, whether it was even doing like sales calls or emails. And I'd get my laptop, I'd make sure I'd be mobile enough to be able to do that. And I'd go do that outside. And I'm spend a bit more time in nature, which I always found was a nice balance to the amount of time you spend inside. Yeah, like those things changed, but then also like my mind just opened up to just how many things I was just doing because they were sort of programmed from a long time ago. And it's just like the norm. This is how you live your life. And I was just realizing that to me, they didn't resonate with me anymore. And I was just really growing as a person.
Back at the start, you talked about your health. You really sort of honed in on when I was working this office job, it was affecting my health. I didn't want to be like a chair, and I was eating bad and all these sort of things. So there's a definitely an underlying value there of health. Do you think at this point in time, in these 4 years where you've gone through this transformation, that value really started to sink in a bit more? Like, is what I'm doing actually healthy? And what do I need to change to improve as I am obviously getting older?
Yeah, that is exactly what went through my mind. Like, is what I'm doing healthy? Like, making other people healthy feels great. And that's a really, like, it's life affirming for you too. But you just can't get left behind. And also, I don't think you can be as serious. To me, I need to live what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't respect what I was doing if I wasn't doing it for myself. I'm not going to be one of those people to tell people to drink less coffee and then me, whenever no one's looking, to just like roll it up. Like, I wanted to be the embodiment of what I wanted people to be. Doesn't mean I'm perfect, but I'm just going to try. I'm going to learn. I'm going to keep pushing. And what I also noticed, and maybe this is something you felt too, but like, let's say 14 years ago when I started, I was learning more about nutrition, things I didn't know. And I'm like, wow, I feel so healthy. But then I learned something else about nutrition and made a change. And I'm like, geez, this is so much more healthy. And you just keep on leveling up and you're realizing like, I was way down there, but I needed to ride the stairs up, I guess, especially the way I was doing it. But going to the next level, you don't want to go down a level. So like, I just had to keep on making new changes. And you also, because your eyes are open, you can see things in a different way too. It's sort of like, for example, just say I did the CrossFit level 1 course again now, like over 10 years on, I would see so many different things. Maybe they've changed the course too, but maybe if it's exactly the same course, I would learn different things now because I'm ready to. And that's sort of how everything's transpired.
Yeah.
I'm seeing things differently with every exercise. And
yeah, that experience and knowledge just grows with time, doesn't it, mate? And in all aspects, and it really makes us question our own lifestyle and our own belief system. So it's great to see how that's evolved over the years for you. And I agree, it's the same for me. Like, I was going through the gym years, working really hard, doing my best to serve all these people, but I was reflecting back on my own health and thinking, geez, I'm not healthy myself. Like, I've got issues I've got to solve. And, this career that I'm chasing and the amount of effort that I'm putting in, it's not lining up with that work-life balance. So yeah, it's a great realization to have. Speak to us on that burnout point. So you said there that you were burnt out. Like, tell us a little bit more about that. Is that the gym? Is that training? Is that what's leading to that burnout?
At this point in time, the burnout, like the pre-mentors, I was living my life in every way in high intensity. Like I'd be working in high intensity. I'd have not enough sleep. I'm just trying to catch up all the time, like working a whole lot high intensity, drinking coffee, adding to the intensity. I'm working out with the intensity, never resting, just always doing that next job. Because like if you own your own business, you know that you've got this endless list of things to do and you actually never get to the bottom. You just add to the bottom, like, and then you realize like, don't expect to get to the bottom.
Exactly.
Like you've done a good job and maybe you're halfway through the list. It's fine. You've got to actually say no at some stage. Where there's still me and up and down. I have an up and down relationship with that sort of thing, but I catch myself when I'm trying to do too much. But the burnout happened just from everything, like trying to do everything. And then you're not really doing everything on a high level, I don't think, but you're just trying and you're not realizing because everything's a blur.
And it's that accumulation, isn't it? It just catches up with you. At the start, you think you can handle it, but 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the track, it's at some point it is going to catch up with you. I think you're right there. It's right with everything. We talk about it to our clients. Like our clients come to us with these health and fitness goals, and they're after an 8-week transformation or a 12-week transformation. It's like, well, health and fitness is a lifetime journey. We're telling them to slow down and enjoy the journey. But business goals, life goals, it's the same approach. It's never ending. You're not just going to find a shortcut, build a business, and retire and be happy. You're always going to continue to work on this stuff, and it's just ongoing. I want to change gears again now, and I want to talk about this move to Noosa. Like, when did this start to brew in the back of your mind?
So a bit over 20 years ago, went for a working trip up to Queensland. So I grew up in Melbourne, and I was in Melbourne for the whole time before that, apart from little holidays here and there. And I went up, we worked on like Daydream Island. I was like a bartender working on an island, this beautiful island, but it was a horrible place to work at that time. Maybe it's different, but it wasn't for me anyway. We drove down and I saw this sign for Noosa. And I thought, oh, that's that place that my friend used to go to as a kid. And he brought back all these really cool, like hollow rocks and stuff, like, like volcanic rocks that look like they're going to be heavy, but they're not. And I always had these like memories, like I've got to check out this beautiful place. And I saw the sign. I just thought, well, this is the sign. And I drove in there and I lived there for a year, nearly a year. But I didn't have any skills that I really loved. Like I could be a good barista and make drinks and stuff like that. But if I was going to live there forever, I probably would have been stuck in hospitality. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it just wasn't for me. And so I moved back to Melbourne, and that's when I really went up in my office job. But I always wanted to get back to Noosa. I knew like there was things holding me in Melbourne because I also like played a lot of music, and the music scene in Melbourne was really good. And I mean, Noosa is like a rich little country town, so it doesn't have those scenes. So like I was staying in Melbourne, I opened up the business, and then I always thought I've got to get back to Noosa at some stage. Like, is this the place where I retire? But then I also thought, why wait till you retire? What? Wait till I'm 70? Is it 80 when you retire nowadays? I don't know. Like
it's getting further and further away, isn't it?
Am I going to be able to enjoy it as much as I can now? Like I just thought I've got to make this happen. So essentially, me and Renee, my wife, we would come up to Noosa most years for a 2-week holiday, and we just love this place. And I was getting her into it too, but like I just have so many good memories from it. We've been trying to save up for a house for a really long time, and as that. A friend said, oh, you should go to this mortgage broker and see if you get a loan, because we never were able to get a loan, because when you have a small business, it's actually quite hard to get a loan until you can prove that you had the income for a certain amount of time and the profit. And then also you end up giving a lot of money back to the business if it needs it. So we actually had this one opening to actually get a loan. We had the deposit saved and we were in Noosa at this time. And I just said, let's buy a house. Because this is pre-COVID, right? It was this pre-explosion of prices and stuff like that. And so for a week, we went to about 30 different houses. Like a holiday turned into essentially looking at houses, and found a house that we thought this could be our family home, which was like the rule. It wasn't just like an investment. It was like somewhere you actually want to live. And we thought, look, at worst, someone's going to want to buy this office one day if it's not the right place for us to live. I'm sure people want to live in Noosa at some stage. And at best, we'll get someone to buy the business in Melbourne and we'll move up here and just make a change. felt like jumping off another cliff, I guess. And
Yep.
to use the
The
same
third
analogy,
life gone.
even though I don't like jumping off actual cliffs that much, but
So far.
it's turned out all right. Yeah. And so we bought a house before, and just because essentially just it was just the next level of quality of life. Like I wanted to be somewhere that I really wanted to be outside all the time. Like I would be outside more in Melbourne, but still just like the cold winters just wasn't resonating with me. I like warm. So I just wanted to make that change. And the two years of like COVID stuff and all that, it just like showed me at the very start of it is like everything can be taken away. It can be taken away. I need to run at things now. Like I need to run at what I need to do because look, things can be taken away. It reminds you like you have to do what you need to do in life and not sit back and have regrets. Like you've got to work the job that's going to do something for you. You've got to spend your time how you need to. And that's what made that happen.
Powerful, mate. Absolutely powerful. Love it. Why wait? Like you said,
Yeah.
you could have waited until you retired, but you'd be missing out on such a beautiful experience that you've got hold of now. And the opportunity came about. Sounds like the stars aligned for you, mate. The fact that you got in before COVID and the property boom, it's just, again, turned out in your favor. Just so people know, like you've talked a little bit about Noosa, but describe the environment in Noosa and, what is it like to live there?
So Noosa is about an hour and a half from Brisbane. But to be honest, like I tried to never leave here at the moment. I've got like an allergy to cities, so I don't want to be anywhere near that crap. It's like a country town, but it does sort of have most things you would ever need. It's got a decently built up population, but this actual part here can't be built up anymore. They've got a lot of rules about like the forest, national parks. So they protect all that. So they really care about the environment and making sure everything's not too built up. To give you an idea too, like, around the beach and anywhere in Noosa, from what I understand, there's no place that has more than 3 stories. Like that's the cap on the whole place. So it can't become like the Gold Coast where you have these huge buildings, which it could easily because people want to be here, but they've got a 3-story cap. So it looks different to most of those other beautiful places that have been a bit more overpopulated, and it's got a bit of a cap on it. So I always love that about it. And I love that like people fought for not building this up like in the 70s, and they've been able to keep it that way since then. What I also love about it is like I just really, really love the beach. And where I live is sort of in the heart of Noosa, maybe you could say. But I've got like the option of like 5 or more different beaches around me, and they're all like a 5-minute drive. And on top of loving the beach, I love surfing. And they got perfect waves for me. Like I'm not the best surfer in the world. I grew up in Melbourne and didn't really go to the beach that much, even though I loved it. It was just cold. And it's like got perfect learning waves and then up to the next levels. It's sort of, I'm just absolutely loving it. And maybe to finish my story, what's cool about living near the beach is that like everyone is cruisier. Like the vibration is lower. Yeah, it's just there's a less level of stress. And that's really what I was hunting. Like every time I'd go away for 2 weeks to Noosa or somewhere like Noosa, like somewhere hot and tropical, I guess, I'd be like, and then I'd get back to Melbourne, it's like, and I want to live my with that sort of stuff,
Yeah, man, for sure. Living the dream. I know Noosa's a beautiful place. I'm yet to be there, but we are planning a trip down, mate. And I look forward to catching up with you.
You got to come down.
When we get there. Yeah, we've got other friends, mutual friends there with those guys around the corner from you too. So,
well, awesome. Isn't that funny? You were telling the story of like Elisa working for us.
Yeah.
And she used to work for you, and Elisa lives here now.
Yeah, exactly that, mate. It's a far cry from London and the cold days in the gym there. So I'm sure she's loving it too. It's a great story, mate. You can see the energy when you tell that story, and it gives me goosebumps just to see how happy you are and what's going on in your life, mate. So congratulations on that. And it's awesome to see that you've jumped off that cliff. You took that risk, because I think a lot of coaches are reluctant to follow their dreams and go after what they want because we're so busy trying to help other people. So it's awesome you've done that. Now, you've also managed to rebuild a new business there. You've started something new. You've got Uncommon Strength, this personal training business. How's that turning out for you?
It's turning out really good. It's turned out really well. Look, essentially, 14 years, I learned a lot of different things. What I was really excited about to come up here is to start something new. And it doesn't even need to have a brick and mortar business right now or ever. And I just wanted to be able to find some people to train and just give them whatever I think they need or whatever, and just give them what they need, but there's no brand and there's no bias to it. Like, okay, like, so some people do CrossFit and there's part of CrossFit that isn't good for some people, but they can't accept that they shouldn't do that part. Like, I'm not saying the whole thing, but like they've been taken in by the brand. It's like some people will do powerlifting and they just can't accept that right now that deadlifts are not good for them. Like the way they're living their life, the way they're doing the deadlift, or, many reasons. But because they're a power lifter, they identify with having to do the deadlift as well as the other moves. What I wanted to try and bring was just like, they don't even know what I'm going to give them. I'm going to give them different things, but I'm really trying to like sit down, be intuitive, but also watch and see what they actually need and give them some different things. And what I've been finding is that what's been really valuable for people is heaps of dumbbell work, like especially unilateral stuff. And, like I love barbell stuff. I still train people with that, but like, it's pretty awesome to make sure both sides are strong, unilateral work, which is getting missed a lot, I believe. And also like balance work, hanging, using the gymnastics rings. You can do that from any level of fitness. It doesn't matter. And just core work and rehab, mobility, just like trying to build like really strong, able humans. And I work with a lot of surfers up here, and like surfing's like one of my huge passions. So like it's really fun to like help them make their bodies healthier and stronger, and so then they can be even better. And yeah, so essentially I've come up here and I just thought, honestly, my business plan was, this is just going to work. I'm going to make this work. Yeah. And I'm going to train people as well as I can, do a really good job. They'll tell people, and that's how it's going to work. I haven't advertised anything, just like Instagram, which could work or doesn't work. You know how that business can be. But basically just, I'm building up a really nice group of people that I train, and I'm just really enjoying it.
That's awesome to hear. How does it compare? Like, I just want to like maybe quickly compare the two, the hours that you were working in the gym, running the gym, doing all the stuff there, to your lifestyle now. Like, what's a typical week sort of look like for you now?
In some ways it's similar, but the difference is I get out into nature like every day. Like I've got that right here. So every day, like at least 5 days a week, really, like especially at the moment, is that I'd be spending a few hours, sometimes more, sometimes less, on looking after the gym in Melbourne, working out all the operational stuff. And, there's busier times, there's a little bit quiet times. And then interspersed with that, I'd have personal training sessions, or I run a couple of classes at a gym around here called Vision. So I'm just basically training people in my gym that I've built at my house. And I'll be training, going back in, doing a bit of admin, doing some training for me, bit of admin, and just like whatever is required. But during that, maybe during the day or to start the day, I've spent like a lot of time hopefully surfing or just like getting out there and just connecting with things, and just like really uplifting myself. That's probably the major difference, because I used to, instead of training people PT wise, I'd do some classes, back in Melbourne, and then do the admin stuff. So
yeah,
have I described it well enough?
Yeah, no, definitely, mate. I get where you're going. Reflecting on it, like, how do you feel now? Like, how do you feel in terms of mental health, physical health, just overall health? Like, what's changed? Have you noticed much has changed? Or
I think I am definitely the healthiest I've ever been, and I can just feel that. And I'm getting better at things. I'm working closer to that one arm chin. I'm getting close to like getting some of those movements that I always wanted. But I also just feel a bit more calm in myself, honestly, a bit more centered. And that's been great.
Yeah, beautiful, man. Do you wish you'd done it sooner?
Yes, but like those sort of questions, it's tricky because honestly, everything did align in the right way for this to happen. Like, I guess one thing I haven't described is that once that business partnership went down, I was like, I am never going to have a business partner ever again. Never, never, never. Like, I'd probably tattoo it on my neck. But then I realized that you can't always do everything yourself. And in the process of like thinking that someone else is going to need to buy my gym at some stage, we actually, one of our past staff members, which was a full-time coach, Ed, he was like such a good coach. He was the best staff member ever. He could empathize with what we did, because a lot of his friends were coaches as well. So he sort of knew that, like, I believe that a lot of trainers sort of see an owner of a gym, the person that maybe they work under, they think that they've just got this easy life and like, I'm doing all the training. What the fuck are you doing? That sort of mentality. And he knew that that's not the truth, is that like you're pretty much always working, but maybe you're at the gym trying to sneak in a workout, and that's like could be frowned upon because that other coach is coaching it or something, like, the negativity that can happen.
Yep.
So we had this guy he understood that was a bit bullshit. He left for a little bit to try and find himself and for other reasons. And then we bought the house. He contacted us and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about someone else buying into the business?" And I'm like, wow, this is such strange timing. Like, and it happened, I reckon it had to happen at that time for him. And then in the end, instead of him buying it all, we realized that I could still be really helpful with my knowledge of the business and just like I could stay on board and do the things that you don't have to be in place. I could fly down whenever needed. And so we got a new business partner, Ed, and it is like a marriage, like, but we really do know each other. And that's the difference. And so, yeah, I wouldn't change it. But I mean, obviously, if I could go back 20 years and say live in Noosa ever since, yeah, I would do that. But I'm a different person. Like I was talking to someone else about it today, someone was training, because I think Melbourne was a really good place for me to be in, because I got to sort of live out my music dreams in certain ways. Like I had a lot of fun playing live music, and there was a place to do it. And then also I feel like I was in a good place to learn from a lot of different people about movement, about exercise. It was a bit of a hub, and it was also easy to go to different places from there. So like, I felt like it was just meant to be. I learned a lot of stuff in there, and then I could take my knowledge up here, and I think like sometimes these smaller places, they haven't like been exposed to some of that stuff. So like I knew that there'd be a place for me somewhere to like help people with some different things.
Yeah, I love that. And it was a great way to sort of summarize, I think our whole conversation today. You started off talking about business partners and a marriage, and then the relationship you've obviously built with Ed. And, he's been a key part of, your staff for so long, same values, same beliefs, understanding. So, he is that, maybe he's your affair, but, things align quite well there.
Yeah.
And you talked before about, your experience growing step by step in terms of your own health journey, your own coaching journey. But, Melbourne offers that opportunity, or big cities offer that opportunity. You've got so many people you can learn off and grow from. And it got to a certain point where, I've got the knowledge and experience I need. Now it's time to really focus on me. What do I want? And it's great that you've gone through and jumped off those cliffs and managed to build the life that you want, mate. Just to finish up, there's 3 questions I like to ask. So I'm just going to throw these at you and see where you're at, mate. So what book would you gift? And it doesn't have to be a book. Maybe it's a documentary, a TED talk, whatever. Would you gift to a personal trainer who wants to build a business that supports their dream lifestyle?
So I reckon if I can say 2 books, they're different. So like, a really good book that I've read recently, which I think I would give to any person starting out in the business, or anyone that just wants to learn more. It's called The Happy Body. It's by Jerzy Gregorek. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, I can't say.
And I feel like that when I read it, I was like, this summarizes a lot of the best things that I've learned over in the last like 6 years. I'm like, wow, this is a great book. Like I enjoyed it. But like a lot of the stuff I'd learned from other people, but he's summarizing in a good way. And I think that any trainer, they should read that, and they're going to get a lot of valuable stuff and just get some ideas on how to train people in a different way or even better.
Yep.
So that's one book that comes to mind. And the second one is, maybe I don't know exactly what it's called, but The Barefoot Investor.
Yep.
So he's got a book, maybe he's got multiple books, but I feel like it could have been his first book. It was just basically on how to save. Essentially, it was like a savings plan. Have you read it?
Yeah, I read it when I got back to Australia. So I hadn't heard of him when I lived in London. And I got back and everyone was speaking about him. Like, who is this guy? What's he done? But yeah, I did dive down that path and read all about his accounting advice for, individuals and how to save money. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just done in such a simple way. And he also, the finance books, I'm not really into finance books. I can't get through them. But he writes it in a story fashion. He relates things to real life stories, and like it really caught me. And I actually finished this book. And also, I definitely attribute us being able to save the deposit for our house from reading that book. Like I implemented the things he said, and I was like, wow, this is so good.
Yeah, the power of story, mate. I love it. And yeah, he
Yeah.
does. He's a really good storyteller because accounting's a boring subject. So how do you get people excited about that sort of stuff? So
100%.
yeah, no, it's a good book. I have read it, and yeah, I strongly recommend it too. Especially for personal trainers, we're terrible at managing our finances. I
Yeah.
think so. To have a
Just
little
not
bit
good
of
enough.
That's it. If you could go back in time, what advice might you give to a younger version of yourself?
Essentially, never give up your health for money is what I'd tell myself in my early 20s. And maybe stop drinking so much. I reckon then later I'll definitely say, hey, look, business partnerships are like a marriage, just like I said.
Yep.
Please just look into this a little bit further, just because that's how you need to approach that.
Your story today has definitely highlighted that. And I think it's, like I said, it's a common thing with a lot of businesses. I think the partnership is what brings the company to the end if you're not careful.
Yeah.
All right. Last one, mate. If you could have dinner with anyone, be them dead or alive, who would that be and why?
That's a tricky question. Like, there's a lot of people that I would love to spend a bit of time with, even people like Jimi Hendrix, Daniel Johns. I'd love to actually ask a few questions to. He's got a new album, which I think's pretty kick-ass.
Yeah.
Dead or alive too, I don't know. But I reckon, honestly, what I'd go with is I would love to just grab my family up here at any time that I like. Because look, I've moved away from my family and they're down in Melbourne. And we used to have dinner every Sunday night. And that was a part of the week that I really enjoyed. If I could make that happen more often, I'd do that over any famous or infamous person,
I suppose that is a tricky thing sometimes when we move away, isn't it? I got that same thing. My folks have actually recently moved to Queensland, so they're a bit closer. But yeah, they're in Serena, so they're about 11 hours south of us at the moment. So
never heard of Serena. Where's that?
Mackay, maybe. 2 hours.
Mackay.
Yeah, no, 1 hour south of Mackay. Sorry. So yeah, not far from there. Yeah. Yeah, so it's a nice part of the world. And my brother's in Early Beach, so I've been down there once to see him. But yeah, that's about 8 hours from us. But yeah, it's nice to have the family a little bit closer. So I do resonate with that. From the years living in London, it was like tough to be so far away from family.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Mate, just before we finish up, is there anything else that you'd like to add? Any comments you'd like to share, to personal trainers or coaches?
Yeah, I reckon the main thing is if you enjoy learning more and you want to get better at what you do, just find someone to help you. Like, just do it. Invest that money into it. And honestly, if you're afraid of spending that money on that, I think that deep down people will be afraid to give you money. Like, why would they invest in you if you're afraid to invest in other people? And I think that's something that I learned myself. And I think it's just, I value learning more things. And if you're the same, I think jump on it, make it happen.
Yeah, I love to hear that, mate, for multiple reasons, not just because I'm coaching coaches, but I do agree with it. I think the most, I've said this before, the most I've grown as a coach and the most I've learned is actually from the mentors, not from any course, not from any qualification book or podcast. It's the time I've spent with the coaches I've hired that have really accelerated, my career growth. So I do really resonate with you on that.
Yeah, I fully agree. And also like what you're saying about courses and seminars, like they're always valuable, but they're just skimming over things. They've had to like dumb it down to sell it to that 50 people or whatever. Like, it's a mentor doesn't have to do that. And that's the beauty of it. Yeah.
Thanks, Ash, for your time. It's great to chat to you. Great to see what's going on in your world. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Stretch. It's great to see you, man.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Protect the Asset podcast. I'd be grateful if you can leave a comment, add a review, and share this podcast with those who might find it helpful. Thanks for listening, and I wish you all the success and happiness with your personal training career.